Here comes the Benny. Oh, wrong button. Sorry. All my buttons are wrong. Oh no. There we go. There we go. Oh, okay, I tried it, and somehow I ended up on Cameo. Am I like gonna get a message from Dave Mustaine for this or something? I can afford that. There's the Benny. And there you are. Hey, Eric and Martin. Hey, Karen. There's everybody. Down to the wire today. Got a little bit of dead drop bourbon. Michael, the event description has a couple of suggestions, but drink whatever you feel like. Drink nothing if you feel like it. It's all good. Just have some water, have some root beer, super water. Hey, Mick, it's a lot of that going around. Georgie sent me a message yesterday saying, so excited for tonight's pub crawl. Wait a minute, what? Howdy, Donna. Howdy.
Benny Goodman, ladies and gentlemen, the man with the...
I need to get, we're doing the literary crawl tonight. So I got to get all of my accessories together.
Congress Hotel in Chicago. And first of all, one of Irving Berlin's greatest hits, Blue Skies.
It's all's in the air for now, but it's going to be hot again next week. Jordana, sorry to hear that. Oh, let's just get all literary in here. Hey, Ben. Hey, Teresa. Hello, everybody. Grace, that's all right. We just like that you're here. Hey, Rodney. Hey, Heather. Georgie, it's youtube.com/Adam Selzer. Yep. I got, elbow patches and everything. One time I was on a panel with a bunch of authors and somebody was saying, well, we just wanted to show you guys that writers aren't all like sitting around in their elbow patches or their pipes and stuff. And I'm like, I have all those accessories, right? Grace, that's rough. Well, we'll just know that you like things. Hello, Miles. Making his appearance. Hey, Angela, welcome. Oh, happy birthday, Casey. Yeah, I thought I was better prepared for this morning. Then I realized, oh, geez, I haven't done this one in 2 years. The files are all a mess. Ward Cleaver. Oh, there's so many dirty jokes I could make right now. Rodney. In a world of Eddie Haskell's, be Kimmy Gibbler. Guys, welcome along Time Travel Pub Crawl, everybody. Only the first time in 2 years we've done the literary haunts Time Travel Pub Crawl. I don't book them as often because they're a lot more work. This is just harmless tobacco. It's called China Black Whiskey. So you get it at Iowa and Reeves in Chicago. The rock radio station in Des Moines back in the 90s used to play like a pre-song bumper, a clip of Leave It to Beaver, saying, gee, Mom, where's Dad? Oh, well, if I know your father, he's out chasing beaver.
Benny Goodman presents Ellen Ward singing With All My Heart.
Gotta set myself up for later on here. Just kind of realized, hey, I haven't got all set up for everything that's coming. Let's see. I say I never dearly, for I am yours sincerely, all my heart. Oh. Yes, yes. Hey, Arlie. Hey, welcome, Kathy. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Time Travel Pub Crawl. I'll tell the stars above you to say again I love you with all my heart. This is Hailstorm saying, here's to us, raise a glass for the last few days have kicked my ass. All right, that's enough smoking. I probably won't keep the jacket on because it is rather warm in here. But I had to show off the elbow patches a bit since we're doing the literary crawl tonight.
Benny Goodman goes way back and gets a lot of rhythm out of...
Well, it's been a rough week for a lot of people. For me, it's just been... I don't know, I took on too many art projects this week in addition to work, plus all the, digging up all the stuff on Frances Carrick, the transgender woman who was accused of murder in Chicago back in 1923. She'd probably use that term today. That was a wild story. My congressman retweeted me. Well, not my congressman, next couple districts over. But still. Jean got the Pinot Grigio girl with all the Pinot Grigio girls. Oh, is it Mercury retrograde? Is in general when people are talking about astrology and like ask me which sign is my rising sign, like I'm an adult. But the Mercury in retrograde stuff, that is legit. Castin, that's right, Elaine. And the Frances Carrick story is just incredible. I don't know why that's not better known. I'll write up a full article on it for the Mysterious Chicago webpage. There's already one on the Patreon. And 2 deep research posts on the Patreon. Featuring stuff about her that hasn't been seen in years. Though I did just put on Twitter the psychiatrist report, which is fascinating, is it's remarkably modern. This was a doctor who had a very modern understanding of gender 99 years ago. I don't think he uses the term once, gender. Well, you know, none of the terms that we use now existed in 1923, so. I get that a lot every time I break out the pipe or remind somebody of their grandparents. Alright, we'll let Benny do a little bit more before we get going properly here. This is, after all, time for a time travel pub crawl. Mr. Hawk. Always glad to see you. But no, you can't have any of our money.
And they all loved it. They all loved those
Yeah, I was feeling like dizzy and off balance last night. It was weird, but I think it was because whilst doing the filming of where the Tesmer murder took place, I stopped into the Whole Foods just to pick up a few interesting things. And in the process of picking up these few interesting things, I saw this little packet of mushroom coffee. I heard about that. That sounds interesting. I'll try it. It wasn't all that tasty. I only had half a cup, but it made me feel weird, man. It's like, what kind of mushrooms are these that they're selling them at Whole Foods? Okay, we're gonna let Benny Goodman do one more tune, then we'll get started properly here. Okay, Laura, the basic idea is that when Mercury is in retrograde, an astrological thing, it messes with electronics and communications. And normally I would scoff at such things, as I generally do with astrology, but in this case, somebody took my boat tour one time and then Venmo'd me along with a note about her whole guess of what my astrological profile would be. I was like, wow, amazing. Every word of that was wrong. Parents, good. You gotta get boosted in time for Mystericon. Now these were like, it was $1.50 packet at Whole Foods. It wasn't gonna be shrooms. It didn't feel like being on shrooms. It did feel a lot like eating an edible, though. That kind of shrooms, the coffee might have tasted better. All right, I'll keep the accessories on for at least through the opening. All right, Benny Goodman's finishing up in a second. We will be ready to start properly, so welcome along, everybody. It is time for a time travel pub crawl once again. Giordano, what felt like an edible from Whole Foods was a packet of mushroom coffee, Oma brand mushroom coffee. It's one of those things that's supposed to help you with alertness and energy, and that's the same thing that acai was supposed to do a couple of years ago, or fish oil, or every year there's a new thing. I figured it couldn't possibly hurt. But all right.
Is being presented from the Joseph Urban Room of the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago.
Oh,
And now,
geez,
Benny
wrong
Goodman's arrangement of the Bugle
button.
Cabaret.
Hope I'm still on. Okay, I'm pushing the wrong buttons here tonight. This thing is all set up differently than normal. So, all right. In any case, it's time to move along differently than normal because this is an older one. But all right, welcome along, everybody. Welcome once again to a time travel pub crawl. You like the scar on my forehead here? I bit myself. Had to stand on a chair. No, really, I walked into a tree outside of the Chicago History Museum. So, more fool me, but now it just kind of looks like I did a battle with Voldemort. Interestingly, welcome along, everybody. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago Tours today, coming at you with elbow patches and a pipe because we are doing literary hunts and I gotta fit in. Today is a time travel pub crawl. Well, first of all, I've been a tour guide and historian here in Chicago for going on 20 years now. My new book is Graceland Cemetery, Chicago's Stories, Symbols, and Secrets. There's lots of in-person tours coming up as well. Like tomorrow night, we're doing Architecture of Mysterious Chicago, booked by request for what I thought was a much larger group than it actually is, but, you know, more fool me. But all right, everybody. I'm just gonna say that a lot tonight, I'm afraid. More fool me. In any case, when we started doing virtual tours over 2 years ago now, I realized, hey, we should do a virtual pub crawl. And then I realized, hey, we could go anywhere in time or space on a virtual pub crawl. So, just a little bit of a background here. Here's how we do time travel pub crawls. In 1915, a diver named Frenchy Deneau uncovered the wreck of a 40-foot-long homemade submarine in the Chicago River. They never figured out who built the thing or what possessed them to take it out of the Chicago River. They even claimed to find some skulls on board the thing. So they named it the Fool Killer and put it on display on South State Street. I actually talk about it a little bit on the Architecture of Mysterious Chicago tour tomorrow night. But nobody knows where it is now. At least that's the official story. It disappears from the record about 1916, but for the purposes of our tour, we're going to say that we found it. It was inside the couch tomb the whole time. And not only did we find it, but it turns out that this thing doesn't just go underwater. It really doesn't go underwater very well at all, frankly. It kind of sucks at that. What it really does is travel through time and space. So what we do is we hop into the Fool Killer and go to bars from all across history. And tonight, hence the elbow patches, we are doing literary haunts, places that were frequented by writers most famously. And with that, everybody, I believe it is time for our theme song.
Climb aboard, cause you don't know exactly where or when we'll go. Chicago 1893, or the Gilded Age in NYC. Blast off into outer space, drink till you're flat on your face. From the comfort of your home, so if you puke alone, one day we'll even find that place in France. And don't come crying to us if you pee your pants. Time travel pub crawl. Time travel pub crawl. Time travel pub crawl. Yeah!
You know, I really should have gated those drums a little bit better. But all right, here we go. Back in time. Where will we go first?
Ahoy there. Pull up a...
Okay, who is that? We'll find out in a second, I guess, when I push all the correct buttons in order. But all right, it looks like we are in Paris. Bonjour, Paris. Think pink, etc. So, all right here at 27 Rue de Fleurs in France was the apartment of Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas for 35 years, from 1903 to 1938. This is where the author Gertrude Stein and her girlfriend Alice B. Toklas hosted salons. In the classical sense of the word, a salon for artists and writers who happened to be in Paris at the time. People like the Fitzgeralds who were staying in Paris throughout the 1920s. You can see the apartment here. Very nice place. Like, I don't know how you could telegraph lesbians more than you possibly are right here, unless you wanted to get really stereotypical and go with like flannels all over the place. But this is Gertrude Stein herself. Among the people who are thought to have been here, it's not like a great list, but I do believe Sissy Patterson showed up a few times. She at least talked about out drinking Ernest Hemingway while she was in Paris. Might have just been talk on her part, but she was the editor of the Washington Record-Herald and a granddaughter of Joseph Medill of the Chicago Tribune. And she talked, well, I believe her story was that while she was in Paris, she talked about guns with Ernest Hemingway and outdrank F. Scott Fitzgerald, who also would have been hanging around in these parts. Though most notably, the most famous visitor there was the off-and-on presence of Ernest Hemingway. And hey, since we need a drink suggestion, who better to ask than Ernest himself? Hey, here he is.
Ahoy there. Pull up a chair. Match my wits, or at least my liver.
Ah, man, we've been to a lot of bars where they say you've been there, but this is the first time I've run into you. Are those stories accurate?
I'd say they were lying, but who can remember? Good chance I was at all of them.
What happened to your hair? You had hair and a beard.
Jungle trick. The Amazon. Spiders the size of coconuts. Locals say they get in your hair, I say shave it off. Don't let hair stand in your way of living.
Okay.
Want to arm wrestle? Worth it just to say you did.
How about we just have some drinks?
Drinks it is then. Daiquiris, my style. Rum, maraschino liqueur, grapefruit juice, and lime juice. I drink one, you drink one, we repeat until the bar runs out of rum.
Well, I'll have one, but I got a whole tour to run.
More for me.
Okay, yeah, more for you. All right, Ernest Hemingway, ladies and gentlemen. Now, while we're on the subject here, one person who might very well have stopped by the 27 Rue de Fleurs back in the day, I'll leave the drink recipe up there for a second. One person who might very well have popped by here at one point might have been Bertha Palmer. She traveled in Paris quite a bit. She was a major patron of the arts, was friends with a lot of the artists, posed for people like Anders Zorn, was buying up Impressionist paintings back when they cost $300. A great portion of the Art Institute's collection comes from Bertha Palmer's old collection. She was the wife of Potter Palmer. After his death, she moved away from the Palmer House area, basically built Sarasota, Florida as a resort town, doubled their income over the course of a few years. She was really fairly incredible. Now, I'm going to take this down I'll move this over. That's what I'll do. I'll move it to the side so we can see Alice B. Toklas again. The other reason that we really ought to have these two popping up together now and then, Bertha Palmer and Alice B. Toklas, is Bertha of the Palmer House is widely credited with inventing the brownie. Now, during the World's Fair, they needed a portable dessert for people who were working on the fair and getting sack lunches, so she, with her chefs and her, invented what we now know as the brownie. She's widely credited with that. Yes, Virginia, I believe it's true. Alice B. Toklas is widely credited with inventing the marijuana brownie. So, there's a terrific movie from the 70s called I Love You, Alice B. Toklas. But that is one thing. She wrote in her book that finding this ingredient might present certain difficulties. Not anymore, not around here. Not in Chicago, anyway. But all right, everybody, we won't stick around too long. I always feel like when Hemingway shows up, we got to get moving. So that's what we'll do. We're going to move from Paris on up to London. Lots of literary haunts in London. See how fast we get there on the Fool Killer submarine. But we'll make our way up here just a little bit further. Oh, here we are in Cheapside, the site of the Mermaid Tavern. The Mermaid Tavern is famously a Shakespeare haunt, even though it's not really that well known whether he really hung out here. A lot of his friends, people like Ben Jonson, definitely hung out here. One of the guys who wrote some front matter for the first folio of 1623 also definitely hung out here. And when Shakespeare bought the Blackfriars Theater, the Cavern Keeper was one of the people mentioned in the contract in the loan, so he must have had some connection. Frankly, I think it's kind of unrealistic to imagine that he never came out here at all. Now, we don't really know quite what the Mermaid Tavern really looked like. It's a remarkable thing about Elizabethan London in the 1600s. Very rarely did anybody stop to draw what they were seeing. There's like one sketch of what the Globe Theater looked like. One rough sketch. Very few descriptions of what it was like extant. Now, if Kit Marlowe was here, I couldn't figure it out. You know, there's stories about Christopher Marlowe hanging out here. I don't really see any references to it that earlier than 1600. It's entirely possible that he didn't really die in 1593, but he probably would not have been showing his face at the Mermaid Tavern if he had faked his death and was off hiding someplace. But there's a lot of drawings like this one is from 1946. Might be some idea of what it looked like in here. Let's see. There's Shakespeare. Look at those pants. Guy could dress. There's a lot of paintings and things like this. This is what they like you to think it looked like when Shakespeare went out with his friends. When Wild Bill Shakespeare was out partying, like, they actually all dressed like this. This would have been illegal for some of them to dress like this, in fact. But this is probably more like what it actually looked like when these guys were hanging around. There's all these drawings of here's Ben Jonson and Shakespeare having a battle of wits at the Mermaid Tavern. There's a lot of literary references to that, but the earliest one was published in the 1800s, about 200 years after it would have happened. It's quite possible that this happened. We just don't really know for sure. But this is about what it looks like on the inside of an Elizabethan pub, really. This is one that's made to look kind of like it for real. And hey, here comes our bartender here.
Good even, gentles. Prithee tell, what news of court? Or do the players trod once more in some new play this night?
We're not really from around here, I wouldn't know.
Oh, thank God, you're not one of those writer types. I can talk like a regular person. All those doths and didst thous. It's exhausting.
Did people really talk like that?
Most of the dumps around here? Nah. But this is the Mermaid Tavern.
And that makes a difference?
Oh, yeah. Ben Jonson, John Donne, that damn fraternity of Cyrenaical gentlemen. They always want me to talk all fancy pants.
Does Shakespeare drink with them?
Of course. All he wants to hear about is goddamn Billy Shakes.
Well, why? Were you not into Shakespeare?
Wild Bill Shakespeare? You might know him as the Bard of Stratford-on-Avon, but to me, he's just a giant pain in the ass. Sure, he's fun. Always cracking up that crowd of his with his quips during their bloody debates. But look at the guy. This is a man who sends every drink back twice and always leaves a mess. Stubborn, arrogant prick.
Him?
Close enough.
Is that what it looked
Got
like?
his smug expression right.
Probably sounds about right.
Now pray, good sir, wouldst thou take a drink? A quaff of ale, some mead, or... Oh, sorry, force had it. What'll you drink?
I'll just drink whatever Shakespeare has.
Canary it is.
Canary.
Fortified wine from the Canary Islands.
Is that like a white? Is that like a white wine spritzer?
I don't know what that is, but based on the crowd Billy hangs out with, I'll say yes. Be right back with that.
All right, guys. You know what that means. It's time for us to enjoy.
The heck? You only live once. Give me a white wine spritzer. 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 Spritzer.
Well, all right. Well, incidentally, that portrait on there is a much later one that is sometimes attributed to Shakespeare. We really only have a general idea what Shakespeare even looked like. This is known as the Soest portrait from 1670. Highly unlikely that the person who painted it ever would have seen Shakespeare in the flesh. Now, the more commonly attributed one is the Chandos portrait. This was actually painted in Shakespeare's lifetime, but nobody is known to have said that it was William Shakespeare until many, many years later. It could just be some other guy who was hanging around at the time. One that we know is supposed to be him is the Martin Dreschout engraving on the first folio, the first published edition of his works in 1623. Now, this came out 7 years after his death, but the book was put together by people who knew him pretty well and presumably would have signed off on this being at least reasonably kinda what he might have looked like. Now, incidentally, the first folio, that first compilation of all of his confirmed plays except for Pericles, they actually have a copy of it over at the Newberry Library. And they don't just like keep it under glass, they will bring it out to you. You can read it and touch it and smell it. It smells like bowling shoes. With a Shakespearean song for us here, while we're hanging out with a particularly Shakespearean tune, even though it is a Dylan cover, here is our pal Ross Berman with Dylan's My Own Version of You.
The summer into January, I've been visiting morgues and monasteries, looking for the necessary body parts, limbs and livers and brains and hearts. Gonna bring someone to life, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make my own version of you. Can you tell me what it means to be or not to be? Can't get away with fooling me. Will you help me walk that moonlight mile? Will you give me the blessings of your smile? I'll bring someone to life, I'll use all of my powers. I'll do it in the dark, in the wee small hours. I can see the history of the whole human race. It's written right there, it's carved into your face. Should I break it all down? Should I crawl on my knees? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Can you tell me please? Stand over there by the cypress tree, where the Trojan women and children are sold into slavery, long before the first crusade. Way back before England or America were made. Step right in to the burning hell, where some of the best known enemies of mankind dwell. Mr. Freud with his dreams, Mr. Marx with his axe. Watch as the rawhide rips the skin from their backs. You got the right spirit, you can feel it, you can hear it. You got what they call the Immortal Spirit. You can feel it all night, you can feel it in the morning. It creeps in your body the day that you're born. One strike of lightning is all that I need, and a blast of electricity that runs at top speed. Show me your ribs, I'll stick in the knife. Gonna jumpstart my creation to life. I wanna bring someone to life, turn back the years. Do it with laughter and do it with tears.
Ross Berman, ladies and gentlemen. One of the best songwriters in Chicago, though he also does a mean cover occasionally. Now, One quick thing, there are a couple of lost Shakespeare plays that we know of. A couple of them, there are a couple of references in print in Shakespeare's lifetime to Love's Labor 1, a sequel to Love, Labor, Lost that no longer survives, and one known as Cardenio as well. Now, the Oxford Shakespeare compilation mentions these and says anybody possessing a copy should contact the authors of this volume immediately. Well, I say anybody who possessing a copy of one of these plays, Cardenio or Love's Labor 1, contact me and I will send you $5 if it turns out to be real. That's count them, $5. $5 may not seem like a lot, but it's a lot, $5 more than the people over at Oxford are offering. And speaking of Oxford, why don't we move on just a little bit over in London, just a few blocks away really, to ye old Cheshire Cheese. Cheshire Cheese was built, the Mermaid Tavern we know was destroyed in the Great Fire of London in 1666. One of the places that came up afterwards was the old Cheshire Cheese. It was built about 1667. It has been known as literary hangout ever since. Charles Dickens hung out here, G.K. Chesterton, Mark Twain stopped in one time, Tennyson, Arthur Conan Doyle, P.G. Wodehouse, the list just goes on and on. There's actually some ASMR, a pub with gloom. This is about what it's like on the inside there. But Charles Dickens did in fact hang out in this place. He even wrote about it a little bit here and there. Famously, they had a pet parrot named Polly that existed up until about 1926. It was in there from 1886 to 1926. There were obituaries all over the world for it. Now they've got it stuffed and framed. Dickens also did that with a bird that I believe is now at the Philadelphia Library. Now, it's a very narrow entrance to get inside of this place. Then once you get in, it's a big sprawling place on the inside. There's a ghost story about it from 1680. Very early, there was a story about this woman who was haunting the place until they found and moved the bones of the children she had murdered. And the broadside about it insisted the story is true and that the bones were actually on display at the old Cheshire Cheese at the time. So it could be that you came out here in 1680, there actually would have been bones on the wall. Here's one of the obituaries for Polly the Parrot. 35 years old, swears at Samuel Gompers and Charlie Chaplin. And maybe didn't swear at Dempsey. That'd probably just be best practices. Now, I'm not sure if Agatha Christie herself was ever here, but she did have Hercule Poirot hang out here a couple of times. He especially recommended the steak and kidney pie. Now, our drink here will be an Agatha Christie one. This one's pretty simple, pink gin. Gin with Angostura bitters. That's about it. Pretty easy drink to make. But really, early cocktails tend to be just very heavy on bitters. Sometimes it's just alcohol plus bitters, as in the case of pink gin. Now, we actually have a menu for this place from 1923. You could get real turtle soup for 3 and 6. That's 3.5 shillings. 3 shillings and 6 pence. There's 20 shillings in a pound, 12 pence in a shilling. You can usually figure if you're like reading Dickens or something, if you figure a shilling is $10 in today's money. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you a general idea. In any case, so this would have been turtle soup for about $3.50. That's not too bad. No, wait. That would be turtle soup for $35 in today's money. This is 1923. It might not be quite as big an inflation rate as it had been before. Monastery soup was only a shilling. That can't be good. Filet of sole, filet of plaice, the dish of the day, including the ye famous pudding. Now, the Y, the ye, is really just a printer's abbreviation. It was never pronounced ye. It's still pronounced the. That was 2 and 6, so Yorkshire pudding for 2 and 6. Multiples of the famous pudding. Roast chicken and sausage. This all sounds pretty good right about now. Or ye pancake. The pancake with syrup or... oh, jam. It looked like syrup or 3 a.m. So I want to have a pancake with 3 a.m. Really do kind of miss not having Waffle Houses around here. It's like the one thing from the South that I miss. And my parents. But we don't have any guests to talk to here, so we'll just move on a little ways. Just up the road to Oxford. Now, Oxford, these are the guys, so if anybody has a copy of Cardenio, hide it under your coat right now. You get it to me later on. Don't let these guys at Oxford get their hand of it. But over in Oxford, built around, possibly even earlier than the Cheshire Cheese, but probably about the same time, the Eagle and Child Pub. Now, this place was built around 1680, but not really mentioned till a few years later. Not really mentioned till a bit later, but it's at least that old. We're looking at like a 350-year-old pub here, older than any building in Chicago by upwards of 200 years. Now, this was part of the Oxford University's endowment for years and years and years, but they sold it to St. John's, another nearby college, just a few years ago, really, about 20 years back now. It's been closed for some time as of last I checked. They're working on doing some renovations and trying to fix it up anyway, but here's a nice shot of the interior. Lined with pictures of the authors who used to hang out here. In particular, there was a group that would hang around in this place called the Inklings, which included C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. They would meet up over at one of their college rooms in Magdalen for discussions, and then repair on Mondays and Tuesdays for lunch over at the Eagle and Child. We've got a little bit of the looks at what that was like. Here was their ciders. Now, by 1950, interest in the group had sort of petered off. They would just kind of meet more sporadically, but it was in 1950. In this room, C.S. Lewis showed off the advanced proof pages of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Now, what kind of music should we have here? What else could it be but our infamous fiddler, Amy McNally? Amy McNally, everybody, the infamous fiddler. Do check out her Patreon. All right, we love having her around here. She also has played live with me on many occasions, played on a couple of my records. All right, let's go back across the ocean. We can do this because we're flying around in the Fool Killer submarine. Here we are in sunny Key West, down there in the bottom. Down there in Key West. Key West is the place to be if you're looking for immortality. Key West is on the horizon line. I could keep quoting Dylan all night, of course. I'll spare you such. But perhaps the most famous establishment among the bars there, at least the literary hangouts, was Sloppy Joe's, a place that officially opened the day Prohibition ended. We are still technically in the United States here. Now, in general, Key West was kind of like Chicago in that nobody really paid attention to prohibition laws. This place operated under different names, probably unofficially for quite a while before then. Then eventually became Sloppy Joe's. Now, it operated under a few different names. It is generally said that the name itself was suggested by one of the regulars, Ernest Hemingway, who is said to have drunk in about as many places as Charlie Chaplin is said to have slept in Chicago. But this one is pretty well documented. He was living in Key West at the time and actually said to have given it the name because there was always melted ice all over the floor, which made the place sloppy. But it is still functional today. This is about how it would have looked in Hemingway's day. Frankly, I gotta say, I'd much rather be dressed like these guys just for a day in Key West. I would be roasting looking like this. But man, that's some style right there. It's like everybody here looks like a Dick Tracy character. Most of them look like Dick Tracy villains, in fact. I especially like this dude in the checked coat who looks as though he's tackling the guy who looks like a Dukes of Hazzard character there. Like you do. But alright, well, I did mention Hemingway's here. Hey, there he is. Ernest, hey. Ernest!
What?
We meet again.
I know you.
Yeah, we had daiquiris at Gertrude Stein's.
Sounds like me.
It was like 20 minutes ago for me.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Time-traveling submarine, couple hundred of us.
Right, that rowdy bunch in Paris. Yeah, you made the trip.
So, still bald, huh?
Bald again. Lice. Seedy hotel in Rosarito. Fish didn't bite.
Sounds like a good excuse to drink.
You need an excuse?
Suppose not. Daiquiris?
Long beyond daiquiris. Death in the afternoon. To quote myself, pour 1 jigger absinthe into a chilled champagne glass. Add iced champagne until it achieves the proper opalescent milkiness. Drink 3 to 5 of these, slowly.
Sounds like a lot.
How observant of you.
This is probably what it was like to hang out with Hemingway most of the time. Why don't we get our butts back to Chicago where we can dress like this properly? 9 months out of the year. Wrong button. Alright, so here we are. Up in River North, where next week's tour is going to be, as a matter of fact, or just off of the Magnificent Mile. Right about where State and Rush came together was a place operated by this dude, William Lloyd Smith. It was a place called Maury's Beatnik Bookstore. Now, William Lloyd Smith was a beatnik himself and was the choice of the Beatnik Party as their candidate for president in 1960. He got together, a guy named Slim Brundage brought everybody out to Chicago, everybody from Chicago out to New York for the Beatnik Party's platform party, expecting them to nominate him for president. But he only bought them one-way tickets, so nobody was really pleased with Slim Brundage. A guy by the name of Joffrey Stewart raised his hand and said, "Is there a bastard in the house?" And a guy named Jimmy the Greek raised his hand and said, "I'm a bastard." So Joffrey said, "Okay, I nominate Jimmy the Greek." But they ended up nominating William Lloyd Smith instead, but he took on Joffrey as his vice presidential candidate, and they hoboed across America, encouraging people not to vote at all because they were anarchists. Now, their slogan was, "A vote for Bill Smith is no vote at all." Now, I actually got some of this stuff firsthand. Here they are at the Beatnik Party convention. Looks like it was a pretty good time, except that nobody had tickets back to Chicago from there. I actually know some of this stuff firsthand. When they used to have the Bughouse Square debates, I would go there all the time, mostly just to interview the old-timers who were there. Bughouse Square was this park in Chicago where people used to get up and make speeches. It was like YouTube comments in real life. But ran into Joffrey there. He mentioned Bill Smith. I'm like, "Oh yeah, the Beatnik Party's candidate for president." He said, "Yes, and I was the vice president." And told me the whole thing. This guy is actually referred to in Howl by Allen Ginsberg. It was, he's the guy referred to as passing out incomprehensible leaflets, which was what Joffrey was doing up until his death just a couple of years ago. But just a few years back, I happened into a bar that was having a poetry night, and Joffrey was there. And they asked me if I had anything I wanted to read, and I thought, you know, I've got this parody of Howl. Do I dare read it in front of Joffrey Stewart? And then I thought again, do I dare not read it in front of Joffrey Stewart? So of course I had to do it. So I'm gonna lay some down now because I really would have regretted if I hadn't done it. Looking back now, and he still talked and hung out afterwards. So all right, we'll pull up this as an audience. I'm gonna get a bit of a drum beat going here. I haven't tested this drum beat, so I don't know how it's gonna be, but. All right, I think this will do. It's called Howl from Mayor Mccheese. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by the grimace. Starving, hysterical purple, it dragged itself to town from McDonald land like a thief who'd come to steal the dawn. Looking like a bloated Zorro in the hat and mask he had begged, borrowed, stolen from the Hamburglar, he crept into town, gurgling rhapsodic jazz, making noises like a biker being violated under the streetlights in the great field of stars, and all the homemakers, shareholders, and sidewalk sliders crept out of their little boxes, and came out into the morning, drawn like lemmings into the old Rockwellian town square. Eyes ablaze like sparkling diamonds, crushing the flowers that were planted by the ladies' auxiliary last year, its mouth a massive glowing gelatin framed by an evil grin. Was this the face that launched 1,000 Happy Meals, that burnt the topless towers of Ilium on a sesame seed bun? The smiling vision that had poured off of every television set for 30 numb, humdrum years. Bring me a shamrock shake, he boomed in a basso voice that he belonged to the thunder, and he laughed like the river below the Brooklyn Bridge and wickedly demanded that we supersize it. But April had sprung forth with all of its false hopes. March had withered like a rose at the gates of hell, and where were the snows of last year? Où sont les neiges? Où sont les neiges? Où sont les neiges? They were gone. Gone into sweet grandfather goodnight, and with them the last of the seasonal shamrock shakes. And our mayor stepped bravely forth to tell the beast that they were gone, and the grimace grabbed his velvet lapels, thrust him forward toward the volcano of his red mouth screaming, and the head vanished between the great teeth, and then his arms and his torso, and his screams were extinguished like the weeping flame of a candle in the sweet December rain, till all that was left was a purple bourgeois blur dripping red, and in a sudden blinding flash we knew the question, why hadn't we seen Mayor Mccheese in a commercial in so long? But the grimace wasn't finished yet. It moved forward and it grabbed Mrs. Carlson, the kindergarten teacher, in her nightgown and devoured her. And he devoured the old lamp lighter of long, long ago, laughing as the blood poured from his mouth like ketchup from a stomped-on, neglected foil packet. And then the minister and Mr. Stitches and Mr. Thomas crying holy to the Burger King for help. And somewhere in the back the angel-headed hipster pinkos cried, we told you this would happen. We told you so. We told you so. We told you. But the streets flowed red with their blood too, and now the revolution wouldn't be coming after all. Or maybe this was it. And the vegetarians laughed too, laughed even as they were thrust between the purple jaws, laughed even though there was no meat in the grimace, as far as the screaming victims could tell, but they bled. They bled. They bled. Part 2. Howl. Howl. Howl, 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 robble, robble, robble. It ate up their brains and their imagination for the want of a shamrock shake. McDonald's, where he graced the face of 1,000 cookie boxes. McDonald's, solitude, capitalism, extra value meals. McDonald's the cheap, McDonald's the plentiful, McDonald's the clean. Tell me, what can it mean that McDonald's is clean? McDonald's, where the mourners gathered in the wake of the grimace trying to call Mayday, Mayday to Ronald, who had packed off and gone to India. McDonald's, where the $5.15 an hour non-union heroes dug in the back for the last of the seasonal shamrock shake mix. McDonald's, whose stock fell several points as the shareholders were gobbled. McDonald's, where the grimace was arrested at high noon, broke the handcuffs, and slithered off laughing on the way to your town. McDonald's, where the plaque outside of the playland read, my name is Ronald McDonald, King of Kings. Look upon my food, ye hungry, and despair, and despair. And despair, and despair, we did. Part 3. Mayor Mccheese, I'm with you in McDonald land. I'm with you in McDonald land, where you counted the money you made off of the Muppet Babies Happy Meal. I'm with you in McDonald land, where the bladdered corpse of Captain Crook lies tangled in the corpse of the professor, and the early bird flies vulgar vulture circles above. I'm with you in McDonald land, where the hamburgers are sliced to the thickness and the glimmer of a Roosevelt dime. I'm with you in McDonald land, where McDonald's pizza is more than just something I swear I once tried when I was in Minneapolis, or was it Cedar Rapids? I'm with you in McDonald land, where Officer Big Mac and the Hamburglar finally sit together for lox and bagels on Sunday morning, and the Fry Guys also sit. I'm with you in McDonald land. I'm with you in McDonald land, where still you forge the yellow signs, the glowing capital M's, the beacons that signify the presence of the quarter pounder with some cheese, the glowing idols that light the highways of the Plutonian, American, Western night. Boy, did I time those drums out right. All right, everybody. As Howl for Mayor Mccheese, my go-to poem. I think they'll probably get us chased out of the Beatnik Party convention, so let's just move a little bit further downtown to the White Horse Tavern for a second here. Well, there was quite a number of Beatnik hangouts in New York, of course. There was the Kettle of Fish, where Kerouac famously hung out, was right next door to the Gaslight, and all right around in these general areas downtown, where the cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan album takes place, and right around the block where Taylor Swift's townhouse was more recently. The Kettle of Fish, Kerouac himself. Most of this is down in the Greenwich Village area, dating back to the days when it used to be quite a bit more of a working class neighborhood. These days it's very diverse there. They have hedge fund managers and venture capitalists living in the same place. It's crazy, but they make it work. But still available so far is the White Horse Tavern. I've actually been in this one. This one is still functional. There was actually a few years ago, there was a movement not only to landmark the exterior, but the interior as well. Now, this place has been, since about the 1880s, it is the second oldest continuously run tavern in town after McSorley's, which is a whole other place. Kerouac was kicked out of here several times for being a regular pain in the ass. Bob Dylan hung out here, and allegedly Dylan Thomas drank himself to death here. It's kind of partially true. He did have his last drinks here before dying shortly thereafter. Originally it was a place for longshoremen, but gradually, but somewhat seamlessly, it became a place for artists. Now, we got one more song to carry us out of here. Now, about 10 years ago, Bob Dylan released the Tempest album. Word went out that one of the songs on it was going to be a 15-minute long song about the Titanic. We had a list of the song titles, but nobody knew which one was about the Titanic. So I organized a thing where several of us songwriters decided to write songs with those titles that were about the Titanic. So we had a whole alternate album of all Titanic songs. And the song Scarlet Town was taken care of by a band called Random Fractions, a Pegasus Award-winning Chicago-based duo and sometimes trio who play songs about all kinds of stories that many are inspired by true life and experiences. This is their story about the Titanic, which won them some awards. This is Jason Nierenberg and Kathy McMahon playing Scarlet Town. random fractions, ladies and gentlemen. You can see their tip jar right down below. And I think we just got one more check-in from our pal Hemingway here.
You're killing me, fish. Never have I seen a greater or more noble thing than you, brother. Come on and kill me. I do not care who kills who. To catch a fish, to kill a bull, to make love to a woman, to live. I thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been a time travel pub crawl. I'm going to quick plug the upcoming things. A week from today, our virtual tour will be Mansions and Mystery in River North, a neighborhood just above the Loop. We'll also do something on Sunday morning, but it will be a surprise. So you'll find out when I do on Sunday morning. Of course, tomorrow is Find a Grave Friday. Aiden might be joining me for that one, though I haven't figured out quite where we're going yet. Next in-person tours, tomorrow night, Architecture of Mysterious Chicago in the Loop. Saturday morning, there's still a couple of tickets left for Rose Hill Cemetery, and just a handful remaining for the 8:30 boat cruise on Friday, September 30th. Just over 2 weeks till Mystericon. Can you believe it? Once again, Mystericon is coming your way. And with it, I got a whole stack of Mysterious Chicago temporary tattoos to pass out. They have arrived in the mail. It's going to be really cool. And with that, everybody, I will just put the Benny on for a minute, and we'll hang out for a bit. All right, thanks, everybody. Neither, I'm never ready. What species is Grimace? Grimace is a sentient milkshake. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody who's hit up the donations to keep these things going frequent and free. Jen, I do wish you energy. I haven't done Riot Fest in a while. I see the original Misfits are back, but when they played there last time, it was the worst concert I've ever seen in my life. But I saw Dee Snider that same afternoon, and they were great. H.H. Solms who are asking $39. Are you on a boat? They're probably on a bus at least. Have I visited any of those pubs? The only one of those that I have been to is the White Horse. Others don't really exist anymore for the most part. Usually I try to focus on time travel pub crawls. It's usually stuff that you can't possibly go to anymore. But we also break that rule sometimes. Yeah, Tony, I saw Licorice Pizza. I like Paul Thomas Anderson in general. That one just didn't work for me. Tom Waits was fine in it, though. The Misfits couldn't decide whether they wanted to be like a Gwar-type band or still like a stripped-down punk band. So Glenn was just in his black t-shirt, and then Jerry had like all the shoulder pads and everything out, and it just was kind of a muddled composition. And coming right after Rob Zombie, who really knows how to put on a show. And of course, Glenn going into his rants about the Kennedys killing Marilyn Monroe and asking like he was being all tough. Write a book on my research. That'd be interesting. You can follow along with it by joining the Deep Research tier over on the Patreon. Oh yeah, those early McDonald's Lands commercials don't look like Sid and Marty Krofft plus drugs at all. The Patreon is your best deal on here. I don't know the Big Mac jingle. I did know the whole McDonald's menu song in about 88. It was Big Mac, McDOT, a quarter pounder, with some cheese fillet, a fish, a hamburger, a cheeseburger, a Happy Meal, nuggets, tasty golden fries, regular, large size salad, chipper, gardener, a chicken salad, oriental, big burger, hot cakes, the biscuit, bacon, egg and cheese, hot casas, Danish, hash brown, 2 and 4, there's another bias, and 3 varieties. I love McDonald's, big time, great taste, and I take this all at one place. It's pretty close to right. There's something about shakes in there, though, that I missed. Miles is hanging out in the chair over there, so he's at least made his appearance. He showed up a bit at the beginning, I recall. Now he's sitting in the chair over here. Thanks, Ann. Thank you, Kathy. I always found that McDonald Land lent itself to parody really well. Ooh, Tony, not a participating location. That's rough. Yeah, but I never learned the Big Mac song. I do know the Burger King one, or a couple of Burger King ones, both of which predate me. But I fall down a lot of rabbit holes watching old commercials on YouTube. I don't want to keep Chiaro waiting. I'll bring Miles over before we take off. Alright, Miles. Your fans love you. You're with a crush on you, wants to see you. That's only nice. We'll just be nice and show off, okay? Here's Miles. I also only know the parody versions of McDonald's Is Your Kind of Place. McDonald's is your kind of place. They serve you rattlesnakes, ketchup between your toes, French fries right up your nose. Last time I went there, they took my underwear. I didn't really care. It was a dirty pair, so next time that you go there, you'll eat my underwear. McDonald's is your kind of place. You know, I just found a while ago, there was an episode of Playboy's Penthouse. You know, one of those ones where Hefner would walk around in a bathtub just like interacting with celebrities and an astronaut would come and talk. Pete Seeger plays Pepsi Cola is the drink to pour down your kitchen sink after doing a song about the quiz show scandal. It's great television. There should be more shows like that now. Thanks for everybody hitting the Venmo. Now, Jordana, one with Park in the name, that does not narrow it down. And what does it mean is referred to in the poem. Now, hot dogs is your kind of place. They serve you rattlesnakes. I did, in fact, have a rattlesnake hot dog one time. Yes, David, the Zelle still works. Zelle is the same address as the PayPal. Yes, Kristen, if you find the Playboy's Penthouse episode with Pete Seeger on it, it says this whole song, come along to the quiz show and join in the fun. And all these sophisticated types gather around. When Congress is having a quiz of its own. Yeah, so cute today, Miles. There are so many variations to the McDonald's is your kind of place parody. It's one of those things where I think every school had their own version. I'm always fascinated by that stuff. I let my website about them lapse. Now, Jordana, remember, this is 1950s Playboy when it was still very sophisticated. And really relatively woke, or I thought it was anyway. Yes! A Pee-wee's Playhouse, a Pee-wee's Penthouse. That would be brilliant. You know, get a bunch of celebrities and musicians and, you know, a jazz band playing the whole time, and Pee Wee Herman just walks around schmoozing with everybody. I would watch the hell out of that program. Jordana, I think I remember the Run DMC Reading Rainbow. And the reason that we do it is to make you laugh, or something like that. I only would have seen it once in like the 80s. I fully believed all rap was supposed to be comedy. So I was mainly only exposed to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Oh, Miles. Thanks, Steve. Alright, we're gonna let this song play out, then I'm gonna take off. It has been a long one, everybody. But I'm always glad to finish it off with you guys. Anybody just joining me, it has been, we actually started an hour ago. It was 8 o'clock Central Time. So now we're in the post-show hangout. But glad to have you anyway for this last minute or so. Miles is certainly glad to be here. Now, Miles is the coolest cat. He's been calming down a bit this week, too, after a couple of weeks of getting in trouble. Not leaving a cat catcher out where he can get it helps. But all right, everybody, that's Benny finishing up.
Let the title speak for itself. Benny Goodman presenting Madhouse.
All right, everybody, that was Benny Goodman coming at us live from the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago, or live if it was still the 1930s. But all right, everybody, tomorrow morning, once again, we are back with Find a Grave Friday, so I will see you all in 13 hours. Hopefully this one won't take 90 minutes like last week did. I think last week was the longest one we have ever done. And you know what occurred to me later? How the hell was that row 2 grave 12? That wasn't the second row. That was several rows in. Numbering in cemeteries makes absolutely no sense. At least not linear sense. Like, numbers are supposed to make some linear sense. Usually. It's like doing your taxes or something. But all right, everybody. Thanks a lot. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago Tours, telling everybody Now the guest star who is coming to the Rose Hill will be the Patreon one. That is October 1st, but it is coming right up. So everybody, thanks a lot for joining me. I'll see hopefully some of you tomorrow night for Architecture of Mysterious Chicago. Most of you for Find a Grave Friday, and lots of great stuff. So thanks for joining me. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago, saying to stay safe and stay strong, but you gotta stay spooky. Good night, everybody. Wait, Grimace is here?